From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Keeping it clean.
I've always been a stickler for clean equipment.
Meet the man behind the Andy Clean movement. Crime on the farm. Police chase down suspects after robbers hit several dairy operations. As fertilizer prices continue to shock.
This input prices, this is crazy.
When producers could possibly see some relief right now on AgDay. Good morning, I'm Tyne Morgan at our Kansas City studios. Clinton is on vacation. Well, happening right now, fertilizer prices are continuing to surge across the country. Take a look at this graphic from Josh Linville at StoneX. It shows the prices of anhydrous ammonia since October of 2020, when prices were at $310 per ton. Then in October of last year, when they rose to $768 a ton, and now where they're averaging more than $1,400 per ton. So what's causing it? Well, right now, experts say it's due to the Russian invasion on Ukraine. Texas A&M Agricultural and Food Policy Center conducting a study earlier this year based on fertilizer prices in October of 2021, saying supply chain disruptions are also causing some of the problems, finding that the largest whole farm impact would fall on feed grain farms. It studied at an average of $128,000 per farm. The largest per acre impact would fall on rice farms at more than $62 an acre. And it could be a while before farmers see some relief, but considering that study used prices from October, the impact on farms is even more of a price shock today.
This input prices, this is crazy. You know, last year we were buying anhydrous for, $420 a ton. I got a bid yesterday. It was $13.50 a ton for anhydrous. I mean, that's pushed our corn up another 24 bushel to their break-even price. I mean, that's huge.
Farmers in the Midwest may be able to weather the spike in input prices with good crop prices and yields, but it's those battling drought who will be impacted the most. So could fertilizer see some reprieve in the coming months? Well, fertilizer industry expert Josh Linville of StoneX says there's a best case and worst case scenario. It just depends on which one plays out.
Best case scenario is this summer. We see China re-enter themselves back into the export market. We see, we see China come back to the export market. We see the Russia-Ukraine conflict go away, and we, bring them back into the fold. We start bringing all the production back online. All of these worst case events, we are feeding this bull market every single day with bad news. If we can just get to a period where we slow down, take a breath, and get back to normal, we'll start to see prices lower.
Right now, USDA tells me that there are no plans to provide direct payments to producers impacted by these higher fertilizer prices. The news comes as a growing number of legislators and farm groups press Congress for relief. Well, something else that could possibly add to the supply chain crunch here down the road. Shanghai is dealing with a coronavirus lockdown amid a surge in cases. The South China Morning Post reporting that Shanghai Port, a major export getaway for goods produced in the nearby manufacturing provinces, has so far stayed in operation, but people are working inside a closed-loop bubble. It requires workers to stay on site all the time. It reports that even though the port is open, many warehouses are actually closed. Combine that with a drop in manufacturing and the serious disruptions in trucking in and out of the city, and that is expected to cause a significant drop in the availability of goods and movement out of the world's largest container port. And as farmers line up their inputs, planting is getting underway for a wide variety of crops. USDA releasing its first crop progress report of the season this week. For corn, 2% of the crop is planted, with Texas, North Carolina, Kansas, and Kentucky getting underway. That's on par with the 5-year average. Spring wheat planting also underway, with 3% of the crop in the ground, just slightly ahead of the 5-year average. Washington State standing at 27% planted. And we told you yesterday morning about the winter wheat crop. The agency reporting only 30% of the crop is rated good to excellent, the lowest rating in over a decade. And cotton planting is running slightly behind. Right now, 4% of the crop is planted. The 5-year average is 6%.
The 3 states with cotton planting progress on April 3rd, Arizona leading the way, 11% planted, 5-year average is 24%. It could be a drought issue there. Certainly some water supply issues in Arizona this year. Elsewhere, we do see 10% of the crop planted in California, and until recently, it's been very warm and dry, encouraging that early progress. The 5-year average progress for California is 0%, so that is significantly ahead of the average pace there.
Texas is 6% planted. The 5-year average is 9%, but as we've been reporting, producers in Texas have also been battling drought. Well, a frightening crime spree at several dairy farms in California's Tulare County last week. Investigators say it started on a dairy operation in Tipton. Deputies say 4 men walked up to several dairy employees and demanded their wallets and cell phones. The victims say 2 of the men were armed. From there, it's reported the suspects went across the southern portion of the county, robbing several people at 4 other dairies. At one dairy, the suspects stole a vehicle, which was spotted by officers. Now, after a short chase, the vehicle was pulled over and the suspects took off running. At least one of the suspects opened fire on deputies. Augustine Chavez and 18-year-old Ismael Cervantes, as well as 2 juveniles, they are facing several charges. Well, it's turning into another day of watching severe weather in the southeast. Meteorologist Matt Urasovic is tracking it.
Yeah, that's right, Tyne. We've got another chance for some stronger storms in parts of the south and east, and you can really see that here on our map where we've got another threat going over the next 24 to 48 hours. An isolated tornado not out of the question in some of those areas there, highlighted in red, really from Jackson, Mississippi to Nashville and off towards the East Coast. And if we take a look at this with regards to future track, what you're going to see is we've got some of those stronger storms as we head through Wednesday afternoon and early evening in parts of southern Georgia, and they really hang out. We've got a lot of instability there, and that is going to favor some stronger storms throughout Wednesday evening. And then as that cold front moves east, that severe weather threat goes along with it and will be along the East Coast as we head through the day on Thursday. A look at the jet stream shows you, yes, there is a big dip in the jet stream. We've got colder air locked in for at least Friday and into Saturday for parts of the Great Lakes and really the Ohio Valley as well, bringing the more active pattern towards the East Coast, but then a large ridge in the west, warm air all the way up into Canada, and very hot and dry back in the southwest. And check out this little helper, Guernsey Dairy Mama, sharing this video of her tyke on Facebook, helping feed the cows there in Silverton, Oregon. A great way to keep the kids busy during spring break. I'll have more on your forecast coming up.
Well, a new ag economy barometer from CME Group and Purdue University took another dip. The barometer now at a reading of 113. That's the weakest farmer sentiment reading since May of 2020, which was in the early days of the pandemic. The March reading was 12 points lower than the previous month and 36 percentage points lower than in March of last year.
The index of current conditions and the index of future expectations both declined this month. The index of current conditions declined from a reading of 132 last month to a reading of 113 this month, and the index of future expectations fell from 122 to 113.
Mintert says the latest survey shows that producers continue to expect 2022 to be a much worse year than 2021. Well, China made its biggest corn buy in months this week, but is it a signal of what's to come? We discuss an analysis. And later, think your machinery is clean? Well, it may not be clean unless it's Andy Clean. Meet the man behind the movement in the country.
AgDay is brought to you by Germinator Closing Wheels. Germinator, it's not just any closing wheel. Reach your yield potential. Pre-order by April 30th with coupon code AgDay for $2 shipping per wheel.
Well, joining us now for AgDay analysis is Sam Hudson of Corn Belt Marketing. Sam, China coming in with its biggest buy of corn since May of 2021 on Monday. It seems like the market was caught off guard by the purchase.
I think the market was a little taken, aback by it, in the sense that we've been talking about the situation for Ukraine. You were coming out of a weekend, maybe lulled to sleep a little bit. But the purchase has been rumored for 30 or 45 days about China potentially doing some corn business. So in terms of the size, a little over 1 million metric tons. I think most of that was going to be for the old crop marketing year, some of it for the new. And when you look at it total from a flash sales standpoint, not super impressive in terms of how it stacks up to, historic, Chinese purchases, but the largest we've seen since May of last year, and probably as symbolic as anything, given the timing. I think a lot of people suspect that this could be just the beginning of a trend potentially of them trying to fill some of the lost Black Sea, supplies due to the Ukrainian conflict.
So it sounds like the buying is actually being spurred by concerns over what Ukraine will actually be able to produce.
That's correct. Not only produced, but exported out of that region. Of course, today there's been a little bit more chatter about the potential for the ports even being damaged. And if you damage infrastructure, that puts more of a definitive timeline on the lack of that supply being out there. Now, when you look at the Brazil's second crop coming online, the fact that they've got pretty high potential there, I think the U.S. and Brazil can, together can feed this demand, but just needs to be kind of realigned here. And China's been in our market for soybeans quite actively, regularly, steadily. So the fact that they're in here for corn now, maybe continue to kind of stoke those at least thoughts in terms of this being a longer term stance.
Well, at the same time, USDA's acreage report last week, Sam, showed farmers intend to plant 4% fewer acres of corn than they did last year. So it sounds like corn supplies could already be tighter than what analysts had expected just a couple weeks ago.
Well, and that's another thing that's peculiar about this Chinese sales. It comes on the heels of that, and things were already going to be kind of snug going into this crop year. But the fact that we've printed at 89.5 million acres now leaves very little breathing room. So and maybe this is also a signal that they're trying to get ahead of any potential problems in the spring.
All right, thanks, Sam. Well, we need to take a quick break, and then we'll have a check of weather right here on AgDay.
For marketing advice, call Sam Hudson with Corn Belt Marketing at 800-655-3380. Find farm equipment on Machinery Pete's April 19th online auction. No reserve, no buyer fees. Start bidding now at auctions.machinerypete.com.
Meteorologist Matt Yurosavik joins us now. Matt, it sounds like a broken record, but folks in the West could really use some rain, and it doesn't look like they're going to get it anytime soon.
Yeah, Tyne, that's right. We've got a very dry pattern back there in the west, and a look at the jet stream is going to show us much of the same as we head really through the end of the week and into next week. But notice this, we've got kind of a dip in the jet stream. That's going to be coming eastward, dropping through the Midwest into the Great Lakes as we head really through Friday and into Saturday. It's going to be very chilly across parts of the Ohio Valley up into the northern Great Lakes. But notice out into the west, big ridge building. That's going to bring in some very hot air there towards Los Angeles, Phoenix, but also bring the warmth as far north as southern Canada there back in the west. And then eventually that slowly starts to get broken down by another active pattern which looks to come in as we head towards next week. And then the warmth slowly starts to move its way off towards the east, bringing that up into the Ohio Valley, place that saw very cold air. Now it's going to be working its way back on up with regards to that temperature heading into next week. Meanwhile, more active pattern though as we head closer to the Easter holiday. So here's a look at that severe weather risk today. Again, staying active in the south and east. And tomorrow, that threat shifts a little bit farther to the east, especially in the Carolinas there, southern part of the Delmarva, and parts of Florida as well. So those storms are going to be along with the system moving on through. We are going to have a larger cold front, though, bringing some heavier pockets of rain to places like Michigan and over into the Ohio Valley. Meanwhile, colder air starting to come in on the northern side and high pressure in control back there in the west. Here's a look at those storm systems moving eastward again, bringing that moisture with it as high pressure slides in behind, but also brings in the cooler air. And you can see some snow showers on the backside of that system as we head through Thursday evening, maybe even into Friday as well. Snow could be possible, especially up here in the upper Midwest, and we could be looking at a little bit more higher elevation snow heading into next week. But if we look at the precipitation, most of it, again, not where we need it. It is east of the Mississippi, where a lot of those storm systems have been over the past few weeks, keeping things very, very dry back in the west. That's a look around the country. Now let's take a look at the weather where you live. Lansing, Michigan, cooler with showers likely, a high of 49 degrees. Miles City, Montana, snow likely with blowing snow possible, a high of 44, and a high of 90 in Oroville, California. It'll be hot and sunny.
Ag Day is brought to you by Authority Supreme Herbicide from FMC. Learn more at ag.fmc.com.
Well, attacking weeds early on is key to stopping them from spreading, but in order to do that, you need to know what weeds you are fighting. And of course, there are several apps for that. But how accurate are they? Well, researchers at Michigan State University decided to find out, and they tested 6 apps. Picture this: PlantNet, iNaturalist, Seek, PlantSnap, and LeafSnap. And you can see the results on your screen. They say the apps correctly identified anywhere from 11 to 67% of the plants they photographed. That's the area shaded in green, or 25 to 80% when partially correct answers were included, which is in gray. So which actually came out on top? Well, the researchers say it's picture this. It successfully identified 67% of the 130 plants photographed. They say grassy weeds proved to be the most challenging for many of the apps, showing less than 10% accuracy in those. Researchers say these apps are a great starting point, and they say it's important to double check the results with a trusted source. And we talked about the high price of inputs at the top of the newscast, but what about sourcing them? We asked retailers about that as part of a Farm Journal poll recently, and here are the results. First, we asked retailers, have you had difficulty sourcing inputs this year? A whopping 87% said yes, saying the herbicide was hard to come by. Then we followed that up, asking specifically which herbicides were an issue, and you can clearly see it's glyphosate. And what about when farmers go to buy their inputs? What will they find? Well, researchers telling the Farm Journal survey that their current inventory is 50 to 99% of what they'll need this year, with 50% of retailers reporting inventory is 75 to 99% of normal. All right, coming up, getting your gear cleaned up and ready for the season. Well, is it good enough to pass the AgDay test? We meet the man behind the coveted stamp of approval in the country. Well, you may have seen people using the hashtag AgDay on social media. It's a business that took off during the pandemic, really. I recently got the chance to meet the person behind it in Ontario, Canada.
AgDay soap, have you heard?
Andy Pastor is an Ontario farmer first,
I've always been a stickler for clean equipment.
who's also known on social media for his ability to make any tractor shine.
It's always just kind of been the way I am.
But it wasn't until he started posting pictures of his clean equipment on Twitter that AgDay started to take off.
Actually, it was a farmer from Michigan, and he'll yell at me if I don't mention his name. His name is Robert Reese, and he's from Lansing. So yeah, he's the one who came up with the hashtag, so he wants royalties now.
What started as anyone who posted a photo of clean equipment got an AgDay sticker has now turned into a business. And the story really started with a family vacation a few years ago.
I was out to Iowa at the John Deere Tractor Museum with my family. We went on a family vacation, and I commented on Twitter. I said how everything was so AgDay out there.
Next thing he knew, John Deere's social media account reached out.
Later on, they actually created the logo and gave me a box with 1,000 stickers in them. Stickers in the box, and yeah, I was like, what am I going to do with all these stickers? So I knew the first guys on Twitter who kept all their stuff pretty clean. So I said, hey, what's your address? And I shipped them out.
The logo, the decals, all created by John Deere.
We made the black and silver one for all the guys who don't run John Deere equipment.
But as the AgDay craze took off, he had an idea to try to recoup some of his costs from shipping the stickers around the globe.
It was never really in my mind to make a soap. I had a lot of people asking me, hey Andy, what kind of soap are you using and stuff like that. It just kind of clicked where I said, I might as well try and create something.
And so he did. His own soap that was built by a farmer and tested by farmers all across Ontario.
Yeah, what makes it the AgDay soap is just indifferent is it's farmer built. That's what it is. It's farmer built, right from the ground up.
And now as Andy works to build a network of John Deere dealers to retail his AgDay soap, he knew exactly where to start. None other than his local John Deere dealer.
So I just called him up and said, hey Justin, you guys interested in retailing this?
And Justin Englehart, parts manager at Huron Tractor, didn't really hesitate with his answer.
I had been following it for quite a while, so it was a no-brainer for me, that's for sure.
So you immediately said yes?
Immediately said yes. Yep. I think I might even cut him off halfway through and just said, yep, just send me the order form. So
The product has been in place here at Huron Tractor's Exeter location for a week, and already it's creating big buzz.
Lots of interest, yep, for sure. I think we've sold 3 or 4 today even, and it's selling quick.
As he says, the marketing team at John Deere, along with key connections on Twitter, have been the foundation of his success.
They were tweeting the Andy Clean stuff, and yeah, that's the cool part about it. So yeah, those are the people I have to thank for it.
As the business takes off, Andy says he really doesn't even consider it a business right now. It's just good, clean fun. Thanks, Andy. That was a fun day. And Andy actually convinced me to clean some equipment myself. I don't know about those Canadians, but they can convince you to do things without realizing that you're saying yes. But Andy, thanks for having us up that day. All right, that does it for Ag Day. Thank you so much for watching. For all of us at Ag Day, I'm Tyne Morgan. Have a great day in Farm Country.